Hey guys, I'm going to sit here with you and create a short comic um, based on this character I call Princess Apocalypse, which is slightly goofily based off of Taki, my wife, and her daily struggles. It's kind of a weird story, but I won't get into it. I will, but yeah, I haven't done a short comic for you guys in a while. Been posting lots of like process stuff and whatnot, but let's work on a comic. I don't have a script ready because I've just been busy with regular work and trying on different classes. So instead of like really trying to come up with a typical story that has 3-act structure or whatever, this is just going to be kind of a vignette, 2 or 3 pages of this sort of cosmic character escaping. The general idea is that the princess she's the princess of the daughter of the creators of the universe, and she wants to run away and just experience what's out there. Kind of your typical princess story. There's a lot more layers to it and stuff, but that's kind of all you need to know for what I'm doing here. So like I said, I don't really have a script. I had a general idea in my head of what would be happening here, which is the princess and her sidekick, who's this evil snake who's always getting her into trouble, or isn't the best influence. They escape from a star and fall to Earth. Nice and simple. It's a basic scene, and it'll just be fun to draw some wackiness. And then I'm going to figure out later if it's going to have dialogue. I was kind of half thinking of taking the poem Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and just using it as captions, and try and contrast with that short poem with the action going on. So let's just start. I'm going to show you how I just make up shit as you go along. Again, this isn't like a writing lesson. We'll do a writing thing at some point, where I actually talk about the writing process and walk you through it. But this is more of a scene than a story. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So page 1. This is page 1 will be the star opens. I should have restarted my computer. I could feel a little drag on here. Anyway, princess pops head out. That's all that's going to happen on page 1. Page 2. So the idea is here there's a transitioning happening, right? You have a star in its static, or an object in its static moment. Something happens, which is the star opens up, and then the reveal is this girl popping her head out. So in a weird way, that page has 3 acts to it. Something is static, it changes, and then it changes more. That's not quite the way I should put it, but it's early, so that's the best that can come out of my mouth. But basically, yeah, it's almost like a 3-act beat, right? You have something static, something begins to change, and then there's a reveal. That's probably a better way to put it. And pacing-wise, when you're writing, a reveal should happen at the end of a page, or the promise of a reveal, or some sort of minor cliffhanger. It doesn't matter if it's a real cliffhanger or if it's just a moment of question. It can be really subtle, but that's whatever that change in the status quo is on that page should always come near the end. For multiple reasons, because every page should feel like its own scene, every scene should feel like its own story, every beat even kind of reflects the larger idea of a story. If something is static, there's a metamorphosis and there's a change. So page 2, she climbs out, reveal snake, and then there's some kind of trouble. Page 3, they escape the star and fall into space, they become a shooting star. So even here, so they escape from the star, and they fall into space, they become a shooting star. And the whole story started with a static star. So all 3 pages kind of reflect the larger idea of your basic storytelling premise, sort of a 3-act structure, a beginning, middle, and end, a transformation of a static object or a time or static place. And then at the very end, I'm bringing the shooting star reflects kind of what happens to the star at the very beginning, which is that it's static, and it goes from being a static, standing still star to becoming a dynamic star shooting through the galaxy. Not a giant story, like I said. This is more like just a scene, almost a proof of concept for the character, because I've only drawn sketches of her. I haven't actually drawn her in words in a story yet. So this is just going to serve as the basic script. So let me shut that off. I'm going to create a layer on top of my template. And I should just save this as my template, meaning save this white layer, because I like to have it blocked out from when I don't need to see the template stuff, but usually I work with this layer at a low opacity so that I can see the template below it. So here's the script. I'm going to create another thing. The script. Okay, the star opens, princess pops her head out. Okay, so just going to be. Well, first thing I want to think about is, the panel sizes. So there's going to be 3 panels on this page. I feel like they're all going to be equal sized panels, because it's not like I need a big establishing shot of this star, because it's so simple, right? It doesn't need like a giant space, and I'm going to do like a 5-pointed star, so it also isn't like some sort of dynamic fiery star in the sky that would have all this kind of detail around and stuff. So I think I'm just going to do 3 equal size panels. That might not be equal, but it's fine. I'll work out the borders and stuff later. And this is just the pencils. I'm just going to do the pencils on here, and then later we'll be doing a version with I'll record doing the inks. I'm going to do the inks kind of traditionally, so I'm not sure how I'm going to record that, what will be the best mode to record that with, because I don't have this kind of set up with my desk. So we'll play around with that. Alright, so anyway, star in space. I'm tilting it slightly, and I'm tilting it in this direction because generally your eyes read left to right, up and down, right? So by having the star pointing this way, that kind of feeds into the how your eye is naturally moving, left to right, up to down. Because if I did it this way, it doesn't confuse anybody, right? Nobody's going to be lost with this. But this feels like it's going against the flow of the eye instead of with the flow of the eye. So that's why it's going this way. And I could just do it straightforward, but that's a little too dull even for what's going to happen here. And there's going to be some other stars back here. I like these kind of stars too. Do some space ghost kind of space clouds. And again, notice how I put the clouds that are going to be around the star. I framed the stars so that it's got the clouds on the left and right of it, so it creates this sort of pathway. Again, this is all eye flow. Always think about how the eye is moving across the page. So this is all about eye flow. That's why I did it this way. Actually, I should probably bring it a little bit behind the star. That helps give it depth. Yeah, that helps give it some depth. There we go. Well, super rough right now, which is fine. I'm going to give a little shape to the star, like to show that there's some dimension to it, so it's not exactly a flat star, because it's kind of a kids illustrated idea. So want to have fun with it, keep things abstract. I like that kind of fun of like Terry Gilliam's Baron Munchausen had this really playful aesthetic of like this part fantasy, part real. Things were sometimes real because they felt real versus that they were actually happening on the screen. I love that kind of shit. That particular film is really influential on me. That and Time Bandits. All right, so anyway, let's get into the star here. So it's going to open up. Let's just get in close. So this is basically going to, that's probably not right, it's probably more like this, right? This part's going to open up. There's a little hand in it. And then I'll be black there. Going to add a little shooting star in the background because that'll sort of feed into what happens later, and also just get some more action on the page. And I notice I put the star down here because again the eye flow, top left to lower right generally. So we've got the opening coming up here, the black is here, all these lines are going to line up, and then there's a shooting star that emphasizes again. You could also do a kind of a fun thing is when I go from top panel to a second panel, so the eye flow goes from top, top left to the bottom right, and then you can kind of like probably reverse this panel even. And now I'm actually going to go backwards with the flow of the eye because of the zigzag pattern that happens when you're reading a page. So let's try that out. So this could work. So you'd be reading this way, left to right, this way, and then I can pop it out again. I still kind of like it the other way, to be honest. But for the sake of the exercise, let's do this. Left to right. We're going to do the zigzag. Ugh, that's wrong. We're going to do the zigzag pattern. So it'll be like, your eye's going to go like this. Also, when I'm doing the lettering, I'm going to make sure that my captions kind of go in this flow as well. Or word balloons, whatever. Alright. Actually, what I'm going to do, like I realized she's moving left to right on here, right to left on the second panel. So then, but on the third panel, I want her to seem to move from, again, go back to left to right because of the zigzag pattern, right? So I'm going to have her coming out more in the center on this panel here instead of coming out, excuse me, instead of coming out in this complete direction. I'm going to center it a little bit more so it's like just his hand come up. Okay, so then here, I'm just going to start with her head. Now she pops out. I'll figure out the exact shape of this later. She pops out, and then the snake pops out too. This is the shape of the star thing here. I'll figure it out later. The part that opens up because it's I can't think right now. It's too early for me. And she's happy. Let's give her a smile. For as ugly as this is page 1. For the sake of just keeping these things easy to follow, I'm going to just go right into the pencils for the next page. or layouts, I should say. Excuse me. Alright, so page 2. She climbs out to reveal the snake in trouble. Okay, so basically they're going to climb out here and realize something is following them, and they got to get out of there. I think that's what I'm thinking. I also think I'm going to stick with the 3-panel. No. I was going to stick with the 3-panel grid, but I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do 3 panels still, but stacked differently. So let's give a good shot of her out of or mostly out of the star. And our little snake friend. I like to think of her kind of like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Like, she's just out there to make friends and to help people. And then this guy, the little snake, is a bad influence on her. Because, you know, kind of an obvious metaphor for like angels and demons and all that kind of stuff, but like in a fun way. I'm not going to get all heavy on with this or anything. Star kind of in perspective here. This is all loose. I think I'm going to have to make the star much bigger. Maybe I'll just leave it this size. That's fine. It doesn't matter, that's not the same size that she popped out in. And again, just keep this all super loose. What else happens? Okay, now they figure out that there's some trouble. So she's probably saying something along the lines of, you know, isn't this wonderful? This is pretty cool. We're out here in the universe. But he's gonna flip that and be like, yeah, I think we're being followed. I think there's trouble behind us, because, you know, the prince, the king, and queen of the universe isn't gonna let their daughter just run away, so they're gonna send people after her, right? And again, I apologize because I'm kind of making this up as I go along. I have vague ideas of what the larger story, which I'll eventually get to, will be. This is just a vignette, and so I'm sorry that I don't like lay out exactly who the characters are and what the world is and stuff. It's mostly about the storytelling, and maybe just enjoy watching somebody make some shit up. Okay, so she's like, and sometimes I'll write down notes like, "Hey, isn't this great?" Contrast that with him saying, "I'm not so sure." Most of the work that I do, I think about contrast, whether it's the physical contrast of the art, or what happens in one beat to the next beat, one moment to the next moment. How does it reflect off of the moment before that? How does it contrast to the moment before that? So even in like this dialogue, which is just temporary, this is just like vomit dialogue. It just kind of either says exactly what they're thinking, or it says what they're going to say. It's just to put something down. You have to start somewhere. I start with the dirty dialogue, but just so she said, "Hey, this is great." He contrasts that with, "I'm not so sure. I think we're being followed." And sometimes I cannot read my own handwriting after I go back to it. That's a problem for another time. So now she has to look a little worried. We'll be right there next to her. She's looking behind over her shoulder. Oh, I think you're right. Could just be pure paranoia on her part, though. She doesn't really know. I think you're right. Alright, So that's page 2 layouts. Page 3. They escape, fall into space, and then turn into a shooting star. Okay. So this was going to be 3 pages, but I think it'll end up 4 pages. So let's go back to 3 we'll keep it at 3 panels, but I'm going to change it up to 3 tall horizontal panels, because now they're going to be leaping as if there's gravity in space for some reason, but this is, you know, fairy tale logic, right? I have to be careful with her proportions because she's a little kid, so I don't want the arms being too long or the torso being too long or whatever. Actually, you know what? Fuck. Okay. I want to show a little bit of what this threat is that they're running away from. Actually, I'll keep that. I'm going to show the threat of what they're running away from first. So let me create another page here. See, I'm already getting out of hand. I want to keep this as 3 pages. It's going to be 4, maybe 5 now. Alright, so then she's worried about something might be showing up. Keep these in order. Okay. So she's looking behind her. Let's go back to the 3 panels again. So in this top panel, she's gonna go behind her a little bit so we can see what she's seeing. It's dark, and there's gonna be this glint of light. That'll be the same. And the glint of light, we're gonna start to see this shape. I remember I had these sketched out elsewhere, these like soldier things, and that's going to be coming for her. I don't remember exactly what it looks like. So for now, I'm just doing this weird shape coming at her. Hands. This is sort of vague threat. This looks unreadable to most people, but I know what's happening here, I promise. I'm also going to have to clean up the details by getting out the sketches that I did for these characters originally, and I'll share those with you during the next video. This one's just going to be straight up the sort of layouts here. Let's see, snake face here, that'll be all the same. Then this will be its singular shot. These are hands reaching out for her. Okay. So here we go. Now she leaps off. She's got her snake friend with her. Let's make the star smaller. She's falling. A little bit of like a sort of a skydiver pose. Snake. Let's turn this upside down. Keeping her body loose. I don't want to look like she's like an acrobat or something, kind of like a kid jumping into the water, so her legs aren't straight or anything like that. Oof. she bursts into like a star because I'm going to hint now. This is Clip Studio. I've mentioned, I'm sure most of you know it, but there's always going to be somebody new. One of the things I love about Clip Studio is down here is these buttons. I can, rotate quickly or subtly like this, or I can just grab this and quickly turn the whole page around. That was something that I hated in Photoshop because in Photoshop, I know there's ways to do it, but there's not a really super simple way as this that I know of to do it in Photoshop. And typically I was adjusting my Cintiq here. I can't quite see. I would have to like tilt the Cintiq, or I'd have to select the whole page and then manually turn it and then try and get it back. This is just so simple and so easy. It's awesome. Let's indicate that star up here. Then indicate that something is coming after them. Really hard to tell in these crappy little layouts, but this is all the information you need for storytelling. I don't need to get super detailed. If I was showing somebody else, like for work for hire stuff, then yeah, I would definitely tighten it up. I'm going to tighten it up for you later anyway, but I'm just saying right now I know what's happening on the page. I'm going to have the snake saying, "Here he comes." So we're going to see like a little object over here, just indicating that they're being followed. Then boom. This is the sound of them entering an atmosphere, which we didn't see in the other panels, but maybe I'll establish it a little bit here, just very lightly. Yeah, that's probably good. That way we see a little bit. There's going to be lighting coming from below. So I'm kind of setting up the atmosphere in a planet that's down here, which I just did off the cuff. Like I wasn't really planning to do that, but there you go. And then the final page will be shooting stars. So this is her. It's the princess. And this is the soldier following her. And what do I want down here? Oh, I know. I'll draw one of my favorite ruins, mystery spots in the universe. This place called Göbekli Tepe, which these ruins they found in Turkey that are so old that they put man's time scale back by like an extra 10,000 years or something crazy like that, because of these giant megalithic blocks that they build that would require basically like a citizenship, like a settlement, like something that hunter-gatherers couldn't do because they need to stay in one spot long enough to build these things over hundreds of years. It's a whole crazy thing. Look it up. It's called Göbekli Tepe. I'm going to draw some fire here. Some people sitting around. I don't know if that's what they did at Göbekli Tepe. I don't know. I'm going to be moving all of this shit around. Like I can tell I need these characters to be bigger and stuff. Here's somebody pointing it out. That's the fire around them and stuff. So that's basically it here. Here's our layouts. There's our scripts. Here's our layouts. This will be page 1. Let's walk you through it. Okay, so this page has a classic zigzag pattern to it. You know, upper left, bottom right, left to right, or now you're going the opposite way because this is the way your eyes scan. Even though your eyes read left to right, your eyes scan both ways in a zigzag pattern. So hopefully we've got good eye flow here. This is the second panel. Yeah, page 2, I mean. We reveal the character. There's a little bit of, it's not conflict between them, but, contrast between them. This panel is page 3. They see something is coming after them. Page 4 is the escape. Page 5, it's not really resolution, but it's I don't know what you call it, but it's just it's a shift. It's a giant shift in pacing, because now we're introducing other characters, another world. The place that they're at is changed. They're no longer in space in a star. Now they're in an atmosphere on Earth or some Earth-like place. And that's the end of our first little chapter here. And maybe I'll do more, maybe I won't. This is just, like I said, this is an exercise for you and I. It'll be nice to have these little pages just as like a proof of concept for this character as I develop it more and stuff. It's just a good exercise. So right now I'm going to leave this here. This is just about the layouts for these pages. The next step is I will grab my sketches, some Göbekli Tepe reference, maybe some star reference. As a 3D object, that star could be, I could easily do it freehand, but I could also use SketchUp where there's something in that shape, because there's more shape to it than just a flat dimension. I don't know. So the next step will be I'll pull out those references so that I can draw the characters correctly, and I will tighten up these pencils from these sketchy figures to fully fleshed out pencils. The inking stage will be later. So basically this will be done in 3 videos, and that's the beginning of that. So this is the layout stage, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's recorded right.